Bonjour mon petit chiffre, Amber here. How are you doing? Today I wanted to finally sit down and share the flip through of my 2022 reading journal. Last year I used this pretty white celestial journal from well, at the time they were called That's Lovely Dear. I don't remember the name of the shop now, but I will link it below if I can remember. And I did really like the journal. I love the design of it. I love the gold pages. I know I complained I mentioned when I did the setup that the pages, I didn't like that they weren't as coded or how dark the bullets were. Eventually I got past that and I didn't even notice it after a while. It's the second to last day of January. As I'm doing this voiceover, I'm really trying to get back in the flow of things and to put out content more regularly. Also, if you hear my computer hissing, wheezing, if you will, she is asthmatic just like me. Anywho, let's get into this. So here we have my filled in and overflowed bookshelves. I ended up reading, I believe, 70 books in 2022. Usually my shelves consist of 60 books. My Goodreads goal is usually 50, and then I leave extra just in case because I usually do go over. Of my 22 anticipated releases of 2022, obviously, I only read one of them. Digging Up Love, and I read that for my Jurassic Park Chooses My TBR video. Well, of my additional, I also read The Honeys by Ryan LaSala, which I loved, by the way. I didn't talk about it because I haven't been posting regularly, but I did love that book. And of my general TBR, I read quite a few. I've read Unravel the Dusk, Six Crimson Cranes, The Wild Ones, Ace of Spades, Iron Widow, Jasmine Throne. I did my Brown Sisters reread. Almost half of the books on this list. Amari and the Night Brothers, The Atlas Six, We Do This Till We Free Us. I also started Blood Like Magic. So now we have my monthly release page, and around October is when I started, I stopped keeping track of the releases coming out each month. That's when I just kind of stopped doing everything. And as far as my 23 releases, I just kept them all, the anticipated releases, on this big post-it and never transferred it into the actual journal. As far as my reading goals for 2022, I had read more nonfiction. I read 2 nonfiction books. Read more poetry. I read Rifka by Muhammad El-Kurd. Read more middle grade. That's one that I really was getting into last year. I read 6 middle grade books. Most of them were from the series of Unfortunate Events. And then I listened to 7 audiobooks, which is how I usually reread books before I go into a next sequel. This is always my favorite spread in my bullet journal for some reason. I just love keeping track of my favorite book of each month. I really love the Bookstagram photo, my 2022 in Photos Bookstagram edition, essentially. I did not set it up for this year's journal because it does get a bit much after a while, especially when you're struggling to produce content. We have January, my Edmund Pevensey photo shoot. In February we went to DC. March was my Jurassic Park, and then April went to the museum. May I was dying. Okay, if you were here back in January, you remember I was inspired by For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. And I'm still pretty impressed with a lot of these spreads, like this cape and all of the nice hands I was able to do. In January, I finished the Serpent and Dove trilogy. I finally read Crooked Kingdom. It wrecked me as a person. As you can see, those are my favorites of the month. In February, this is one of my favorite spreads, my favorite setup still. February was inspired by Black Hair for Black History Month. I only read 2 books off of my TBR that month. If you notice, well, it's very early in the year to notice, but I did not buy as many books last year as I have in the past. I did, however, read Mari and the Night Brothers and Raybearer, and they were both amazing, incredible. I have to read Redemptor soon, and I have to get the sequel to Mari. Peace comes when stories are celebrated, not erased. It's a quote from Raybearer, which obviously was my favorite read of February. March, in January, I read Crooked Kingdom. I always said that once I finished the Six of Crows duology, I'd do another Grisha setup. That's a running theme. I have a lot of repeat or redone themes from last year or from the year before. In 2021, I did a Sancta Alina inspired setup, which I loved in this month. For March, I was inspired by Six of Crows, obviously. I still really love this cane, Kaz's cane. March was when I did my Jurassic Park Choose My TBR. Again, how many times I'm going to say that. And it was a really busy and interesting reading month. If you notice, this year I really slacked and fell behind in actually jotting my thoughts down and doing my mini reviews for my books read spread. So I always say I'm gonna go back, and then I just never did. In the end, it does not matter what a story is about, it only matters who gets to tell it. And that's from The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg. I did a spread for that reading vlog and that reading month. I never wrote down any thoughts about it. Once again, kept saying I was going to, but I didn't. But I do like how it turned out because I love Jurassic Park. We know this. One of my absolute favorites. For April, I was reading Dark Academia books. I was doing a Dark Academia vlog, so I did a Dark Academia setup, and this is one of my favorites in this whole book, even with my wonky little wax seal. I read some really good books in April. I know you haven't seen the vlog yet. I'm hoping to finish it soon because I want to do a part 2 this year too. We'll see. I also am really impressed with these drawings I did. Even the top one that's a little messed up, but that's simply because I couldn't see the sketch. Sometimes survival overpowers doing the right thing. That's from Ace of Spades, which, as you can see, was one of my favorites of the month. That and Bunny, which is one of the most bizarre things I've ever read in my life. For May, I did another repeat theme. I did another Bridgerton theme. This time it was inspired by season 2 of Bridgerton, which at the moment I've watched 6 times. I love Bridgerton. I love season 2 of Bridgerton so much, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So obviously, I think this was right after I watched it the first time. Completely obsessed. So we have our bees and whatnot. Oh, May was when I read Iron Widow. Shook, shaken, and stirred. I'm still shook, shaken, and stirred. And as you see, this is when I got bad at jotting down my favorite quotes. But I still love the art on the page. I love how the page turned out. June, this has to be one of my favorite. It's also the most time-consuming setups I did. Another repeat offender. I brought back the mushrooms from 2021, but I also incorporated fairies and did more of like a fairy ring enchanted forest type deal. I love this painting and the opening. I love this setup so much. It makes me so happy to look at it. Sometimes I'll just flip through the book just to look at it, and it brings me peace. I love mushrooms. I love fairies. I love all things like nature and woodland. I also wish I had all of the fairies. I wish I had all of their hair colors. My favorite read of June was Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. Love that book so much, and I'm so glad we get another one soon. Also still love my fairy, my redhead fairy. Oh, and also like the theme was inspired by the William Shakespeare If You See a Fairy Ring poem, which was my favorite as a kid. I also started my very short-lived book club, Maybe It's Melanin. Who knows if she'll make a return in 2023, but I was very proud that I had actually gone through with it, so I wanted to commemorate it. July was inspired by Harry Styles and all the fruit that he references in Harry's House, his latest album specifically. I call it this month Harry's Fruit Bowl. So we have like grape juice, is that what that song's called? We have like the satellite reference, and we have the watermelon and the cherries. Fine Line's the better album. You can fight with a wall about that. July, is this July? I can't even remember. It was the month that I was doing the vlog where I read only books that took place in Philadelphia. I promise you'll see that soon. I promise you'll see it soon. And we have the quote, "Tastes like strawberries on a summer evening." Because I don't talk through my journal setups usually, I never got to mention that the van is obviously inspired by Keep Driving from Harry's House, but also the van from the What Makes You Beautiful video. Anywho, August was the last month that you saw, and it was just 58-second flip through, but it was inspired by plants, my love of plants. I was really into plants at the time and just collecting them. I have stepped back from that a little bit because I've killed way too many plants and it's messing with my depression. Anywho, in August I read I read mostly. I was doing a vlog reading Zoraida Cordova books. I started a series where I read books by one specific author, and this was the first one. I promise you'll see it. I really, really loved Incendiary, more than I even thought I was going to. That was a really pleasant surprise, and I can't wait to read the second book. And speaking of Zoraida, this is another unfinished spread. I wanted to commemorate where I finally hit my Goodreads goal, and the 50th book I read of 2023 was Labyrinth Lost. So I was doing a Labyrinth Lost, I never finished it, because this is when I was falling into my slump, my whole mental slump. So this is what we got for September, my birthday month, which I didn't read any of the books on my TBR. I did not complete the vlog I wanted to do. I bought a bunch of books though, but that's okay because that's my birthday month. I think that's allowed. Actually, I didn't buy a lot of books. A lot of them were gifts or from subscriptions. Nevertheless, it was my birthday. I can do what I want. But in September, the only thing I did read, I did my Brown Sisters reread, which was a nice comfort thing, considering I was just in a real big slump. So rereading my favorite series, one of my favorite series, my favorite romance series, was really nice and at least something I could complete. So obviously my favorite book was Dani. October, I did this so late in October. Obviously it's Halloween, it's spooky season, and I just wanted to do something simple that way I could just write down, keep track of my reading, and still be on theme a little bit. So I just did this I just did this. Please disregard my ugly what is this called? Spiderwebs. Cobwebs. I read The Honeys. That was my favorite read of October. One of my favorite of the year. That was really good. This is when my printer was running out of ink, and I couldn't find my replacement cartridges, so that's not the color scheme of The Honeys. November is another fave, and I'm glad we can talk about it now because I didn't film it. This was inspired by Being Funny in a Foreign Language by the 1975 if you've been around, you know that's my band. You know how much I love that band. So I love the album. I'm still obsessed with it. I still listen to it. It's become a comfort album for me. So anyway, we have the car from the cover of the album and the It's About Time. This is what it looks like. This TBR spread is inspired by About You, which is my favorite song. And it's a London tube and the sun, because the lyric, I'll miss you on the train, I'll miss you in the morning. And then we have my coffee full of soy milk and so sweet it won't offend anybody. I'm sorry, I'm probably just going to keep singing during this part. And obviously the blue goes with the color scheme, like on the back of the vinyl and the album. This is my favorite spread in this whole monthly setup. You ask about the cows wearing my sweater. And I just drew some cows in rectangle sweaters. They're so cute. They were so difficult to do. Obviously November, you know, is when I reread The Hunger Games. So that's great. I also have this little post-it that had a list of indigenous poetry I wanted to look into. We have my little tote bag chic barista girl here. And this drawing I'm actually really proud of for the favorite book of the month. This is from the I'm in Love with You music video. Is that the one where they're clowns? Yeah. This is like a still from the video that I recreated. December. Once again, I just needed to do something simple. Can we talk about what happened when I was writing December and why I just slanted down like that? I don't know. I just did a bunch of Christmas trees. And just kept it really simple, black and gold, very nice, not that serious. I loved in Love Light Farm, started maybe possibly a new favorite series, but obviously my favorite read of December was my reread of Legendborn. I was hoping to get around to Bloodmarked in December. I didn't, but it was my first read of 2023. And then we have my list of most disappointing books and my favorite books of 2022. Hopefully, maybe I'll get around to filming that before it's the middle of 2023. And this is where I jotted down my books to read and most anticipated releases. I always like to do it at the end of my bullet journal before transferring into the journal for the next year. So that is my 2022 reading journal. I have so many pages left over. Yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like me, feel free to subscribe. All my places are down below so you can follow me and I'll follow you back, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!